Hello, this is TTV News broadcast on Tay Ninh radio and television station. Ladies and gentlemen, the People's Committee of Tay Ninh Province has just issued a plan to restore production in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. In particular, the Provincial People's Committee proposed a plan to organize shared production for enterprises in each group of production, business, service, and construction.
According to the plan, the restoration of production, business, service, and construction activities can be temporarily applied to regions identified as green, yellow, and orange areas. As for very high-risk areas, also known as red zones, identified with the scope of hamlets and woods, blockade areas, medical isolation areas in accordance with regulations on production, business, service, and basic construction activities in this area will continue to be suspended. The Provincial People's Committee assigns the Management Board of Economic Zones to assume the prime responsibility for and coordinate with relevant functional sectors, localities, and industrial park investors in inspecting and reviewing the on-the-spot implementation of each enterprise in industrial parks to take specific handling measures. Businesses that meet the on-the-spot conditions as prescribed by the Provincial People's Committee will continue to operate and also add the plan to transport workers, organize rapid antigen COVID-19 testing or aggregate PCR testing for at least 20% of workers according to regulations of the Ministry of Health once a week, and the rotation of workers must comply with pandemic prevention and control measures according to current regulations. Enterprises that have not yet met the on-the-spot requirements must both operate and fulfill them. Otherwise, they will have to suspend operations to complete the requirements or switch to another suitable production plan according to regulations. Enterprises that are shutting down and wish to resume production should develop a specific plan according to one of the plans that have been submitted to the Provincial Management Board of Economic Zones for appraisal and submitting to the Provincial People's Committee for approval.
According to the Steering Committee for COVID-19 Prevention and Control, Duong Minh Chau has launched the third COVID-19 vaccination in the district on September the 4th, and more than 900 people got vaccinated right on the first day. This time, the district is allocated 1,994 COVID-19 vaccine doses. 915 people have been vaccinated against coronavirus in the third vaccination, accounting for 46% of the assigned vaccines. Up to now, a total of 22,217 people in the whole district have gotten the vaccines. The vaccines used this time include Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Sinopharm, and Moderna. Priority vaccination subjects include those who have received the first dose, seniors over age 65 and with background disease, seniors over 65, people with background diseases, and pregnant women. The COVID-19 vaccination campaign in Duong Minh Chau District will last until September 10th. Ladies and gentlemen, due to the complicated development of the COVID-19 pandemic, some students studying outside the province can't return to their schools. The Department of Education and Training requires schools in the province to receive and create conditions for these students to temporarily study at their residence.
Accordingly, the Education and Training Division and schools in the districts, towns, and Tay Ninh City will receive and create favorable conditions for students who have decided to study at the schools where the student resides during the time of COVID-19 prevention and control in accordance with the actual conditions of the locality and the schools. During their study, the mentioned units need to pay attention to support the necessary learning conditions such as textbooks, learning materials, create the most favorable conditions for the students to study according to the school's educational plan. After the pandemic tends to decrease, life returns to a new normal. The Education and Training Division and schools in districts, towns, and Tay Ninh City will certify the training and learning resource of the admitted students in accordance with regulations so that they can return their schools after the period of COVID-19 prevention and control.
As of September 3, 2021, 3,932 applications for support from the government's policy package have been approved by the Ninh Provincial People's Committee. The applications were submitted by Tay Ninh City with a total funding of over 6 billion Vietnam dong. The sector of labor in village and social affairs of Tay Ninh City have paid 3,785 people with an amount of over 5.8 billion Vietnam dong. The beneficiaries are mainly lottery ticket sellers, freelancers, F1 cases who have completed their isolation, workers who have been suspended or laid off due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Apart from the government support policy packages, the People's Committees of Wards and Communes have mobilized businesses and sponsors to support necessities and food for the people in the area, with funds totaling over 3.1 billion Vietnam dong. From the source of the Vietnam Fatherland Front Central Committee, the city has supported 35 near poor households who are unable to escape poverty, 326 ethnic minority households in the blockade areas. The city has been allocated more than 6.8 tons of rice by the province and supplied to 163 households with 440 people. During the implementation of social distancing, mass organizations and youth volunteer teams of the city, communes, and wards regularly supply food, vegetables, and fruits to poor households and people in the isolation and blockade areas. Turn to other news. The audience, Tay Ninh's export turnover reached $433 million in August 2021, down more than 16% from the previous month. Despite being affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, the province's export turnover has amounted to nearly $3,700 million in 8 months, up nearly 37% over the same period.
In the first 8 months of 2021, the growth of processed industrial products and the growth of agricultural and aquatic products all had positive growth in export turnover over the same period. The export turnover of agricultural, forestry, and fishery products reached nearly $80 million compared to the previous month. On items decreased, especially vegetables of all kinds decreased by almost 83%. The export turnover of agricultural, forestry, and fishery products cumulatively amounted to over $151 million, an increase of more than 49% over the same period in 2020. The growth of processed industrial products had an export turnover of more than $404 million, down nearly 70% compared to the previous month, accounting for over 93% of the total export turnover. There are 10 items with export turnover of over $10 million, making up about 90% of total export turnovers of processed industrial products in August 2021. The export turnover of the group of processed industrial products in each month increased by 40% over the same period.
The audience, facing the complicated development of the COVID-19 pandemic, vaccines are considered as an effective shield helping to protect our health. However, some incomplete and inaccurate information about side effects of the vaccines has made people worried, leading to hesitation and pickiness in the vaccination process. Up to now, more than 209,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccine have been administered across the Ninh province. Generally, the health of people is basically stable. The response is good. There are no cases of abnormal symptoms and no death after vaccination. It can be seen that the majority of people expressed support for vaccination against COVID-19. It's very good to be supported by the state to support people to vaccinate like this. Any kind of vaccines is alright because the vaccines have been fully tested. It's safe to get vaccinated. However, some people are still worried and choosy about what vaccines they will be given. It also affects the COVID-19 prevention and control of the whole country. All vaccines being deployed to vaccinate people are vaccines that have had to pass the rigorous censorship process of many agencies and organizations around the world. Particularly in Vietnam, these vaccines must be licensed for use by the Ministry of Health, ensuring safety and effectiveness. According to health experts, there are different types of COVID-19 vaccines, but all of them are effective in protecting and preventing COVID-19 pandemic. The experts emphasize that the best vaccine is the one that is given at the earliest. So being picky about vaccines, worrying and delaying the COVID-19 vaccination will cause us to miss the chance to safely prevent the infectious disease. We have taken measures to reduce the spread of COVID-19 pandemic. However, our core problem is still the issue of vaccination. In this situation, we should inject any available vaccines. If possible, get vaccinated with it. Get vaccinated early so we can have antibodies to fight against the pandemic. Along with measures such as widespread testing and rapid tracing, vaccine is an important weapon to help control the COVID-19 pandemic and soon bring life back to a new normal. Therefore, vaccination isn't only the right but also the highest responsibility of each person to the community during the current pandemic. Along with vaccination, people still have to follow recommended disease prevention and control measures to minimize the risk of infection. The Ninh province will continue to deploy the vaccination against COVID-19 for people from September the 5th to the end of September 15. Vaccination safety is always concerned by the provincial authorities and put it in the first priority. In the spirit of all vaccines given must be safe, so everyone should get vaccinated as soon as it's your turn. That's all for today TTV News. Thanks for watching and see you next time.